the word awareness, we also mean life or consciousness. Awareness, life, consciousness really mean the same thing. When one says, I am alive, he means I am aware. If one says, I am consciousness, he really means I am awareness. When one says, I am alive or living, he means that he's being aware or conscious. So the terms mean the same. So as I speak of awareness, I speak of life. And as I speak of awareness, I have reference to that intangible essence which listens to these words. I have reference to that ineffable isness wherein the images of awareness are discerned. I have reference to the very identity you are. Have we ever been conscious of anything that was not included within this awareness that is right here? Have we ever said you to another without really addressing some object of perception that appeared within and as this awareness that is aware right here, right now? Think just a moment. Have we ever seen a sight? Have we ever heard a sound that did not come to us as this present consciousness? What is the smell of a rose, or the taste of a berry, or the feel of a rock if it isn't awareness? It's awareness functioning, isn't it? It's awareness being itself. Aren't all of the arts and sciences, the figures and events of history with all of their stories? Aren't every sprig of grass, every grain of sand, every star in the heavens, everyone included in and as this awareness right here, right now, being identity? Yes, of course. You know this is so. This is a simple, even though very seldom perceived fact of existence. And it's for this reason that we've heard the statement that we live alone. We live alone as an all-inclusive awareness, an all-inclusive awareness of existence, of being. You see, the friends, relatives, trees, mountains, and the throngs of humanity who keep us company, and all that we see gathered here together this morning, are actually aspects of this awareness. We are. They are images, objects of perception, ideas within this consciousness I am, within this awareness right here, right now. And friends, we are concerned with this single awareness alone and only. This is the only one. Blessed are the solitary, for they shall find the kingdom of heaven. We are concerned with this single, alone, and only solitary awareness, being, identity, right here, right now, and not another one. On the grass here in the sunshine, I close my eyes and I gently be myself. Do it with me now. I close my eyes and I just gently be myself. Now thoughts come. Thoughts come. They say, I live as awareness. They say, I am awareness. They say, awareness is my very being and my function. Functioning awareness am I. I see and feel and hear. Seeing, hearing, feeling am I. Thinking am I. Thoughts am I. Right here, right now. Natural, unworried, unhurried, majestic, effortless being. Isn't that what's going on? Here in this lovely garden, the fragrance of flowers impinge themselves on me, as awareness, and I am those fragrances. The sounds of distant hammer blows, the drone of a bee, present themselves as this awareness, as me, and I am those sounds. Now, with the sounds as they come thoughts, and with thoughts, feelings, and with feelings, images, memories. Memories, yes, fragrances of yesteryear. Oh, I know again as I sit here that yesterday has gone nowhere. Nothing has been destroyed by time. Covered over, maybe, but not destroyed. All that stands between awareness and the freshness of childhood is the habit of concern, the blanket of struggle, the pride of acquisition and human accomplishment, the deadening practice of being a custodian of life, a caretaker of life, the guardian of life. Never, never have I been that dead one, really. Not really. Not in truth. Only in a half dream. I breathe deeply and the heart sings like the child I am. Like the child I am. All right now, refreshed. Refreshed. We can start again to try to tell it again and tell it like it is. But I tell you, there are no words that are gentle enough. Oh, there are just no words that are soft enough, but maybe there will be some sort of a mysterious combination of them. Maybe something a magic combination that will be able to elicit the feeling that will be gentle enough to tell it like it is. Love is that feeling. All feeling is love. It is always love that does the work, or what appears to be the work that's done. Love is here right now as identity. Right now. Once upon a time there lived a working man who detested coffee. He just didn't like coffee at all, and his wife didn't know this because he had never told her. And it happened that she loved coffee very much, and she took great delight in packing his lunch every day and filling up his thermos with a big hot cup of coffee for him to take to work. Well, he always carried the box and the thermos to work, but being a very frugal man, he brought them home again in the evening with the thermos of coffee still untouched, you know. And then, in order to save a penny, and because his wife loved coffee just about as much as he detested it, he would pour the coffee back into the family coffee pot when she wasn't looking. Then that night, he was excused the evening coffee at dinner on the grounds that it kept him from sleeping, you see. Well, one night the wife dreamed that her husband was unfaithful to her. Of course, she didn't like it. And the next night she had the same dream. And this time she really didn't like it. But she said nothing. Well, a week or so later, the dream happened a third time. And this time it just caused much jealousy and much anguish. And she finally decided that it was true. She said, well, it's true, it must be true. The worm, that miserable worm, is being unfaithful to me, otherwise I wouldn't be having these dreams. So she set out to avenge herself. And she did this by putting a pinch of arsenic in his thermos of coffee every morning until she killed herself. Then at the husband's trial, of course, there had to be a trial, you see, but he was acquitted. He was found to be innocent. And the judge said, it is always the same, always the same. Those who believe the dream murder themselves. Those who believe the dream murder themselves. What is the dream? What is the dream? We've heard so much about the dream, the belief and dream of material existence. It is the simplicity of it that hides itself from us. If I could get this point past the intellect, the heart would grab it in a minute. The dream of material living is the belief that we are an ego, a big fat piece of cheese, who is the owner of awareness. That this very awareness right here, right now, that listens to these words, that sees these sights, that feels these feelings, belongs to an ego, belongs to one called Bill, or Mary, or Ruby, or John, or Jack. And then we act as though we are the guardians of it, the protectors of it. But pretty soon it isn't the awareness that's so important, it's the ego that's doing the protecting that is so all-fired important. And pretty soon we are defending that ego. We're fighting to please that ego, that custodian, that pseudo-possessor of life. And yet all the while, life, awareness, just goes on about its business of being aware. Right here, right now, isn't awareness just being aware? Isn't it right now just about the business of hearing these sounds, seeing these sights? Just who is this big ego that says, this awareness is mine? That one is the fraud. That one is the fiction. That one is the one that we have done with. That one is the liar from the beginning. That one is without power, without authority. It's never been anything but a belief. And a belief, a belief is a belief. It's a belief. It has no power, it has no authority. A belief is just a belief. But it doesn't do anything to awareness. Life goes right on living. Right now, see this point. Take this into the heart. Right now, see and understand that awareness itself is identity. Life itself is who and what I am. I see that some of you are seeing this right now. We live this single identity, refusing to be the custodian, the possessor, the old man, the liar on the scene judging his miserable mess. Well, how do we live the single identity? How do we live it? By being conscious of the fact that this consciousness is God's self-awareness about the business of being this awareness I am. We awaken to the fact that we are not another and never have been. And then we stop acting as another. We awaken to the fact that we are not the custodian, the possessor, the container of awareness, but that we are awareness itself, life itself, God's living itself. And then we stop acting as the possessor, as the custodian. We begin to live as the single one, as the solitary, as the only. We live one awareness is all. And then we stand fast on this ground. We refuse to have two awarenesses on the scene. And then, bit by bit, precept upon precept, and without really any conscious effort, we begin to find meanings behind the events that are transpiring all around us. And then, knowing the meanings, the reasons for the appearing may also be known. And of course, what to do about them. What to do about them then would have to be known. And we find ourselves living harmoniously in ways that we never dreamt of before. God really is love, you know. But the love God is not out there separate and apart from me. It is here as this identity, as this awareness I am. Love is not an action that I am to engage in first. Love is the identity I find myself to be. Then, every action you see is automatically love's action. And it isn't possible to be unloving or unwise or unwanted. The grand wonder is that awareness is already aware. Awareness is already aware, right here, right now. We didn't have to do anything to make it what it is. We are it already. Awareness is the action of mind. What is mind if it isn't to be aware? If it isn't to know? And what is knowing but awareness? Now, here we are. All the time we have been, all the time we've been the knowing, the living, the consciousness of mind. The divine mind. So you see, the identity, we are, is already established. It is already pure and perfect, despite the belief that we hung like a veil over it, the belief that we were a recipient of awareness. Why, never were we the recipient. We've been it all the time. And we are it right now, without weight, without struggle, without fighting, without clawing and scratching up the leg of God trying to get to identity. Right here, right now, we can let go of the belief of human possessorship, of human receivership, to be the one we've always been and will always be. Betty, what is awareness if it isn't the knowing of mind? Awareness is knowing going on. Mind about the business of being mind is knowing, or is being aware. So therefore, this awareness, right here, right now, this identity we are, is wisdom. It's mind's knowing. Why? The identity I am is infinite wisdom itself, right here, right now. You see, we don't have to learn the truth. This is a notion to be discarded. Absolutely, to be discarded. We're not here now about the business of learning the truth. Whether we like it or not, we are learning that we already are the truth. That we already are wisdom, being wise. And you know, there's a hell of a difference. Why, just the knowledge of this fact, speed, self-discovery. Just the knowledge of it. How? How does it speed self-discovery? It has us properly identified. You see, since I am wisdom, I am not one who is searching for wisdom. As wisdom, I am seeking, finding, and becoming aware of the many vistas of my self-identification. Now, as one attempting to try to get wise, or as one attempting to learn the truth, as if it were separate and apart from me, then I am forever falling into the intellectual outhouse of anguish and confusion, frustration. Now, either we will forsake that identification who is struggling to become wise, or we're going to watch ourselves attempt to live its absolute destruction. Now listen, let me say that again. We're not struggling to put off the old man. We're not struggling to put off the belief of a possessor. We're about the business of letting go the belief that there is a possessor. Just that there isn't really one, so therefore it's only a belief. So we're about the business of letting go the belief of a possessor, the belief of a mortal identity. And this is to end the belief that beliefs are even going on. Oh, and when we do this, we find ourselves comprehending what appearances are. I can't say too many times, I guess, how important it is that we understand. Well, that is, we don't stop until we understand what the appearance is. You ask me, how do we study? Well, with the gentle grace of light about the business of examining itself, we study from the position of intelligence, already intelligent, from wisdom, already wise, from awareness, already aware, happily examining and being amazed by its infinite detail. We study by tangibly, practically, actually living the light of ourself that has already been disclosed to us, and I suppose also by ending all reticence to surrender the uttermost farthing of the possessor, of the former concept of ourself. We study by learning the lessons that come from living our light enthusiastically. And of course, by doing just what I'm doing right now, by telling the others that I am. My own self-vision of the wonders that we found. Oh, I can tell you this. Listen, we really study best by coming home to that native, intuitive, heartfelt, wonderful child of God that we already are. I means identity. I means identity, not a suffering human concept of self. I let go the role of an awakening student. I end the identification of a gendered mortal learning this or that. Why, I'm not even a member of the human race. I'm not one among many, working, striving, or struggling, or straining, arriving at truth. Like it's put in the Bible, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. I take the divine awareness of God to be my identity. I am that. That is me. And I don't hesitate to say so. right here, right now, I don't hesitate to say so, that I am the awareness of God. Reminding myself as often as is necessary that awareness is who I am. That awareness is what I am. The why I am. And that identity is not a human one, not a worldly one, not a sick, sinning, ignorant, or quarreling one, but the holy one, the whole one, the perfect one. You know, we all know what we found. We know of the inner peace, the light, the love, the insight and wonder of being, that we have found light to be, truth to be. You all know what the truth has meant to us over the years. All the hellfire and damnation the world can muster cannot efface the grace that we felt. The challenges we face, like lions in the Colosseum, may appear to tear the old nature apart, the old man, the belief apart. Oh, but all that's torn, all that can be, is a concept that was never real, a belief that was never real. The grace of identity stands untouched, untroubled, singing and clapping its hands with the angels. It has been said that the discernment of identity is an uphill struggle, but it isn't really. You may have come here thinking that it was going to be an uphill struggle. But you see, we are what we are, whether it's seen or not. And the simple knowledge of this fact is a great aid. Awareness is our identity, and awareness is aware whether we struggle with it or not. The fact of awareness functioning is ever effortless. It's ever going about its business of seeing, hearing, feeling, and including thoughts, all within itself, just as it's about the business of listening to these words right now. I can tell you that much of the effort goes out of our daily struggle. The very minute we extend this sense of identity from this body point from which we observe things, you see, the minute we extend it to infinite awareness, doing the observing, unbound awareness itself. Now, as this expanded identity, the body point is not excluded. But it is seen as sort of the center within an infinite identification that includes the universe within itself, that includes every grain of sand and every star and every blade of grass in the universe. So what do? We live this child of God that we are already. And we live it without effort, without struggle. And most wonderfully, I can tell you, we live it without inhibitions. You see, this conscious awareness being us, this awareness that's going on right here, right now, listening to these words, is deity's self-awareness in action, for which deity, isness, reality, God, is responsible. The weight of the world the weight of the entire world and with all of its guilt is lifted from our shoulders the very instant we stop trying to be an ego, protector, custodian, possessor of awareness. The very minute we stop trying to be a personality, an ego, a big phantom bugaboo protecting his flock from the outspoken teachings of somebody. Once upon a time I was invited most sincerely to go and visit a man's group, and then he came to visit me. Well, the instant we stop trying to be an ego out to protect his images, out to protect his sense of possessions, the minute we stop trying to be one intent on healing perfection, when perfection stands tall and perfect, quite without need of healing, the instant we stop doing all of that, we awaken to a whole new world. Yesterday we had quite a talk about living judgelessly. It seemed the point was well understood. Now I would like to make clear something that happens as we live judgelessly, something that some of you have already run across. Incidentally, to live judgelessly means simply to live as awareness itself, to perceive identity to be just this awareness and nothing else. When I say nothing else, that includes the world, though, doesn't it? Because awareness is the total function of mind. So when we assume the real identity, we are not losing anything, we're gaining a sense of infinity. Now, the point that I'd like to make has already been found out by many of you. You've mentioned it to me. The fact that as we stop living as the possessor of awareness, as we stop living judgmentally, as we stop placing good and bad values on our images of awareness, our ability to distinguish increases. It increases enormously. Now listen, there's a great difference between value judgments and distinctions. It's a difference, however, that isn't very easily understood until we actually get underway and begin living judgelessly. Then, and not until then, it becomes apparent just what this difference is. And then our actions follow suit. Now, to make this point very clear, let me say it again. The ability to distinguish increases as judgment ends. Distinguish what? Well, new sights that we've been unconscious of before. Or we hear new sounds that we have never consciously heard before. Last evening someone mentioned the sound of the wind blowing through my pines out there. Of course, this is a sound that's always been with us. We became very conscious of it last night. Whispering pine. Oh, but new feelings. We become conscious of feelings that we long since thought had vanished with the year. But more than this, we find an ever-growing new ability to distinguish things in areas that are generally recognized as not even containing things to distinguish. An illustration I might use, or an analogy I might make, it would be sort of like we had forever been looking at a bowl full of marbles. And heretofore they had only been round. We would all agree, we'd say, well, they are all round. But as we live just a simple, credulous, childlike awareness, lo, we find that we see what others don't seem to see. Suddenly we see that not only are they round, but they have different colors. And this means that each of them is a little different. We see that perhaps the design is different in them. We perhaps see that they're different sizes. Now, the point I make here is that these are distinctions that we are beginning to perceive. And we find that these are distinctions that others who do not, and when I say others, I mean only other aspects of ourselves, other people, but it appears that they don't see these things. So I'm telling you again, to answer your question, Betty, yes, perception does become very clear, very acute. An intuitive alertness develops. Inevitably, the wonder is how we could have been so darn dumb to have missed it all these years. As our acuity develops as the consequence of living as judgeless awareness, we begin to find ourselves seeing things about things that we've never seen before. We find ourselves interested in things that we've never been interested in before. Oh, we have a broadened, widened sense of appreciation. No question about it. Right here, well, let me, for instance, read you something here. Here is, if you will imagine this, a very lovely lady by the name of Catherine Nelson Davis was walking up a beach one day, and in a state of wide open awareness, as poets most often are, with that listening attitude that comes from being credulous, childlike mind in action. And she looked down on the sand and she saw a feather. One feather. You know, you can look down on the sand nowadays and find all kinds of things like beer bottles and combs and old tires, but here she was on a stretch of clean sand and she saw just a feather. Listen to what she wrote. One air-spun pearl gray feather tipped with whiteness brings visions of the soar and lift of wings, of fluent grace and sweeping arcs of seagulls, of stately lyric beauty and compelling things. I see the crystal sea, moon-washed with silver, and feel the cooling wetness of the sand, the sting of misty salt spray on my shoulders, the lapping of the waves across my hand. One air-spun pearl gray feather, fragile wonder, once etched against the sky or on the shore, The pinion of a proud, majestic creature, as free as wanton winds, to swirl, to roar. Can one dream dreams of loveliness and grace without a fleeting glimpse of heaven's face? Well, all it was a gray feather, and yet awareness could see all of those things as the consequence, and this is not unusual. You too will find yourself, in fact, all of you are seeing more now than you've ever seen before. And you know this is so. You know this is so. The child we are is alert, sees every little thing that happens, and notices every bit. To pick up a feather is just a feather to some, but to this lady, one air-spun pearl gray feather tipped with whiteness brings visions of the roar and lift of wings, affluent grace and sweeping arcs of seagulls, of stately lyric beauty and compelling things. Well, it may be just an ordinary view to some people, but as she held that feather in her hand, she could say, I see the crystal sea moon-washed with silver and feel the cooling wetness of the sand. I see the crystal sea moon-washed with silver and feel the cooling wetness of the sand. The sting of misty salt spray on my shoulders, the lapping of the waves across my hand. One air-spun pearl gray feather, fragile wonder, once etched against the sky or on the shore, the pinion of a proud, majestic creature, as free as wanton winds, to swirl, to soar. Can one dream dreams of loveliness and grace without a fleeting glimpse of heaven's face? Well, of course, we can all answer that for Catherine. Of course not. We see heaven's face, and with much more than a fleeting glimpse. You know that I've long ago given up on this business of trying to say everything so absolutely and having everything very profound. We just say it like it comes to be said. And if we're honest about it, then not only what we say is understood, but what seems to be behind it is understood too. So I don't know why I should all of a sudden want to read a poem. I don't do it very often. I did the other day though. But maybe because I was a soldier. This particular poem had significance to me. This was written by a soldier whose name we don't know, and he was a Confederate soldier. And perhaps the most, as wars go, the most vicious war this country has ever suffered, a time when polarization burst into flame. And as appearances go, this is a new time of polarization. But listen to these words, not absolute words, just simple words of a soldier. I asked God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked for help that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for. Oh, but I got everything I had hoped for. Despite myself, my prayers were answered. I am among all men most richly blessed. I'm sorry. But words like that communicate too, don't they? Of course they do. They point to love. And I can echo those words. I am among all men most richly blessed. I am. And I know I am. Oh, and I can tell you that with this blessing, that I can tell you how blessed you are. That you are blessed with perfection and purity and beauty and holiness beyond all belief. Beyond all belief. Okay, we better take a break.